Gamers Entertainment Podcast. This is Hero Darkness.
Salt Logic.
Mission Abyss.
And today we are joined by our friend, Dead Clown.
Hello.
And today we're going to be discussing, and this will be a very interesting topic for us to discuss, is there a line that video games can cross? And this has kind of been brought in light of certain video games are receiving some backlash on some content that they want to talk about. The one that I'm most familiar with is the game Detroit Become Human, where they want to explore an aspect of society that is very real, and some people believe that they're trivializing it and normalizing it. And the game has a section where it deals with child abuse, and where you as the player, you have a decision to make of what are you going to do. Are you going to let this continue on, or are you going to do something and stop it? And that has received a lot of various things. And so to start off, we're going to ask this question, that is there a line that video games can cross?
Well, so personally, I believe that there really isn't a line that's been crossed as of yet, but there possibly could be a line that could get crossed, I think.
Okay, and if you were to define what the line is, how would you define that line?
I'd probably say taking a real situation and making fun of it. I feel like that would be the line that would be crossed. Is if you just start actually making fun of a situation, such as in your instance, Detroit Become Human with the child abuse. Now, if they were to just make it like a joke and run the entire section of the game as a joke, I feel like that would be crossing a line, because this is a real situation that people might have experienced themselves or are close to people who might have experienced this, and it would definitely make the game uncomfortable for them, and it would make the game uncomfortable, I think, for other people who have influence with people that experience this themselves.
Okay, so you're saying that if games are taking it and making it kind of parody-like or joking matter-like, where it's like, haha, this is as a big of a deal as it really is a big deal.
Yeah.
Because some of the backlash is people believe that this game is normalizing or trivializing, and they're just using that as a marketing to make business. And the developers and the directors of the games have come out and stated this is pretty much the reason of the story. This right here sets up the story for this character, for Kara, and the things that she'll be going through and experiencing. Like, that is a key moment in her gameplay and in her story for her. And that's one thing that they've come out and stated, like, we want to be able to explore, we want to be able to show this thing, and they're aware that this is a sensitive topic and they want to handle it correctly. And Rich, you had something to say about the response to the question?
To the response to the first question, I'm sort of in agreement with Clown there, that there isn't really a line that has been crossed, but I don't think games should be sensitive to said topic, said things. They should do what they feel like, as long as it fits that thing.
Okay, so could you like use an example of your said thing, so we're all clear on what you're referring to?
Well, many things in society nowadays, those social standards that need to be met and whatnot. The most games have a social standard they need to. Those social standards that stuff have in society. And with that, that can affect how games made. So, like, going back to the thing with Detroit Being Human, it's leaned towards one end of the spectrum and not the other. Although making this too normalized, but that's because society hasn't really addressed the issue, and here comes the game addressing the issue. So with me, as long as it fits what it needs to be doing, and isn't going overboard with it, like just making it way out there for say, it should be fine.
So you're saying that, like, the line is based on what society has given, what society has set, that is the line, and that it shouldn't be touched because it's sensitive, and games shouldn't touch sensitive topics. Is that what
Yes.
you're saying? And so you're saying
That is correct.
the line is more of a what society is saying and what's sensitive, and so society sets what that line is, and not so much what's been set by gaming.
Yes.
Okay. And so, do you have anything that you want to discuss or add, or are you kind of in agreement with the two?
I'm kind of in agreement, or for me, I don't really see. For me, I don't really see too much of that. There is a line that they shouldn't cross. For me, this one's actually kind of one I've been debating. I kind of see where for it's really depending on who you are, and I kind of agree with Rich there. There is a fine line based on society, but I say it's kind of more for who you are as a person. For me, like in a game, if it portrays something, it needs to portray it well. It can't just do it to up and do it. Take some games, for instance, and I'm pretty sure this was mentioned, but with to get all fan favorite game, Modern Warfare 2, there is a mission in the game, and they even tell you, I believe, when you start the campaign or in general, it will make a comment saying that there are some levels and things like that that people may not find suitable, and that it'll pretty much ask you if you want to skip. I believe, I don't remember, but I think it gives you an option to skip it when you get to it. If you don't, it actually gives you an option when you start it. Anyway, what I'm talking about is there is a mission in the game where you are going undercover with this Russian group. What you're going on in that said scene is you're pretty much going up and you're shooting down an entire airport with LMGs. A lot of people will find that crossing the line where they went too far. I can agree with them on that.
So you're saying that that instant was probably too far
Just a little bit, yes.
because it
Like I
was
said, I wanted,
it was you weren't shooting at a designated bad guy. You were shooting at
no,
innocent.
you were, yeah, innocent civilians and things like that. You know, just doing their own job. I can see that where that's going too far. That's probably the only instance in every game I've played where something has been taken a little bit too far. Personally, I didn't skip it the first time through because, you know, at the moment I didn't really think twice about it because I didn't know what was going to be taking place in that mission. I never ever did go back to redo that for any point whatsoever because I didn't see the need to. I didn't want to. Like I knew in the back of my mind, like, this isn't right. This is kind of where I draw the line with that. But in general, for me, aside from that point, I don't see where a line would be drawn in normal circumstances or situations, aside from that one particular instance. Mainly because it takes the role and kind of switches it. You're not going around, you know, just shooting people from some other part of the world. You're shooting people in your own territory. That is kind of where I go up and draw the line in terms of did they go too far.
Okay, so I think we're all in kind of agreement. Like, the too far is where you're no longer shooting at a designated bad guy. You're no longer taking out something that's evil. You are doing something where you're harming civilians. And so in that case, then an example, then Fable, you can say gone too far, and that's a game of pure fantasy. And Fable is a game where you're allowed to do whatever you want. If you want to go and rob someone, if you want to go and kill someone in a town, you can do it. Yes, the game has a built-in punishment where you can be kicked out or wanted in that town for doing that, but you can do that. I mean, there's also instances with Grand Theft Auto.
Cause and effect, in a sense.
Grand Theft Auto, I mean, it has the same thing. Yeah, you can go on a killing spree. Yeah, you can go and steal cars. But you're going to become a wanted person. You're going to become where the police are coming after you. The SWAT's going to come after you. So that's as Salt said, a cause and effect.
But also,
what you do
in
has consequences.
Could you being the bad guy?
When you look at GTA 5 as a whole, that's kind of, the whole game itself isn't necessarily a correct game, so to speak, in terms of doing things normally, because you're made to pretty much go steal cars and things like that. You're not necessarily forced, but that's just kind of the way the game is as a whole.
Okay.
I do believe that there needs to be a suspensive reality when you're talking about video games too. Where, cause I know this is a big topic that people talk about a lot, but if you're going into a video game and playing it like you would go through in real life, that's your prerogative. But then there are also people who go into a video game to relieve stress, and I know there are some times where I will get onto GTA, and I myself have never had the desire to go out and slaughter copious amounts of innocent people. But I'll do that in GTA if I get bored. Just because it allows me to suspend my disbelief and do something that I wouldn't normally do, because it's just not who I am. I think that if it's a touchy subject of people in a video game, in the sense of a video game, doing things like that, then I think people just need to understand that just because you do it in a virtual setting doesn't mean you're going to be doing it in the real life setting.
Yeah, there's a whole lot of conversations that happen with that, because some people point out there's the whole muscle memory. You have to learn and get used to it. Just because, for instance, someone plays Call of Duty a lot doesn't mean they can instantly go and pick up the said rifle, or even Battlefield, where they can go pick up and use a said rifle and instantly know how to use it. They may know why they need to aim down the sight and why they need to pull the trigger, but that doesn't mean they instantly know how to properly handle it, how to clean it, how to change out the magazine, and how to run with the gun or how to jump with the gun, because they're running with a controller in their hand or a mouse and keyboard in hand, and that's a completely different feeling than having the actual thing in your hand. I mean, my dad didn't care much for those type of games, but he had no problem of giving me a game called Ace Combat, where you are a pilot, and he's like, yeah, you may know how to fly, but the likelihood of you being able to go out and use this is very low.
And if you know correctly, you actually fell in love with that game. That game was amazing to you too, because it made you love doing.
I learned about the various different aircraft and everything. The game taught a lot. But going back to the point, if you are sensitive about certain things, then be smart on on not picking up that game or playing it a certain way. Now it raises the next question. If the game has the mature content, and we know that little kids are getting to play it, and people are concerned about little kids or teenagers on playing these type of games, who's the one at fault here? Is it the parents not doing homework on the game? Is it the kid for wanting the game and the parents just giving it to the kid? Like, who needs to be held responsible if people are so concerned and worried about
I mean, if the parents are getting it for them, then they should somewhat be held responsible, because it tells you on the thing, rated M. which means you know it is not child appropriate. It's an adult rating. So they should know right then and there that, hey, this is going to have things in there my child shouldn't be playing. And you should be mindful of that.
Yeah, I know that when you go to GameStop, I remember when I bought my copy of Fallout 3 for the PlayStation 3, back when I was like 14, I believe. I went with my mom, and I texted my dad asking if it was okay. And my mom's only idea was that as long as it's okay with your father, you can get this. Okay, so I texted him, and he said that it was okay. And at GameStop, they actually read off the reasons why a video game is rated M. It's like, oh, it's rated M because it has sexual content, violence, drug references, stuff like that. So if the parent is okay with their kid buying a physical copy and actually having it read to them what creates the M rating, and then wonder why their kid is talking about all this stuff, the fault is on them, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I remember asking my mom a similar question, and she's like, no, they shouldn't be able to touch the sensitive topics because it's a game. The kid can go back and replay it and replay it and replay it. And I feel like that's what a lot of people pull up, and they're not afraid to pull that up. It's like, oh, you can go back and replay it and that. But as Salt pointed out, he played that mission in Modern Warfare 2, and he was kind of disturbed by it. And he didn't want to touch it again because he didn't want to deal with that mission.
Makes a person feel uncomfortable.
And you notice that if said person has a problem set A, if that's what they find enjoyable.
Because I do remember that in Modern Warfare 2, they had put a disclaimer for that level, saying that that if you don't feel, they basically told you along the lines of what was going to be happening, and that if you didn't feel comfortable with it, that they were giving you an out for the level. Yeah, you could skip the level.
Yeah, and even if you did accept it to do it, all you had to do was just hit the start button and hit skip level, and then ask you, do you want to skip level? And you just hit yes, and it'll skip the level and complete it for you automatically.
Yeah. So there was the only downside of doing that was that you didn't completely understand the conversation right afterwards. But it did kind of help keep that, if you don't want to view this touchy situation, you don't have to, and you can still go on through the rest of the campaign unhindered because of it.
Yeah. So, I mean, at least with that game, it tells you, hey, be mindful of this. Play at your own risk, so to speak.
Okay. Now,
yeah.
I do know, like, Call of Duty World War II came out, and a lot of people were so defensive about the game because they were afraid of the swastika and with the Nazis and how it may influence little kids. Sledgehammer is aware that they have kids playing their Call of Duty games, but should society dictate what is allowed in a game, or should the developers be allowed to freely express what truly happened during especially historical time era, where it's important and crucial to have it historically accurate in both the single player campaign and even on the online aspect? Is that something that's important for the developers to be able to use and be able to use freely, or should they be restricted because of political culture and how society feels about it at the time?
So I think that completely ignoring history is just wrong.
Well, wouldn't that make you ignorant?
Yeah, it's just asking for ignorance right there. And I don't think it's right to, just because there was a very shady part of history, that we should ignore that shady part of history.
No, because
they
say history repeats itself, and there's a good chance it can if you don't know it.
Yeah. Well, the adage is, those who don't know history are doomed to repeat it. So it's better to talk about the things like the Nazi Party, for example, instead of just referring to them as the German Army, and using the swastika instead of the German flag, because the Germany was basically overrun by the fascist Nazi Party.
And by showing it was the Nazis control, not German flag, it could give the kids the misunderstanding that it was the Germans that did it, not the Nazis.
Yeah. And it was basically after Hitler had taken power and had started doing everything that he had done. Germany didn't like that. Honestly, they didn't. But they were afraid of him and the power that he held. So they were forced to sit on the sidelines and watch as the Nazi Party and the SS deprecated their country and what it means to be German.
Now, for everyone listening, I'm using this game as an example of how in the single player they were allowed to use a swastika, but because of how society feels about World War II and everything that happened, multiplayer, when you played as the Nazis, you're just a German soldier and you play as a female. Multiplayer, this single player campaign had it where there was the swastika. You played as, they had it historically accurate, but when it comes time to play online on multiplayer, they limit what is all there in the game. And that's where I'm asking the question is, should that be limited even in a multiplayer aspect where most of the gamers are going to be at? Because how often do us gamers go back and replay a campaign after we complete it?
Typically not often enough unless you're going to like perfect it.
And it comes down to the campaign. I don't mention this in the podcast, depends on the campaign, depends on how often I replay the game.
Yeah.
And so to circle back around, should gamers or should game studios be allowed to fully show history as it is and what it needs to be, despite what society doesn't like? And Clown is saying, yes, the game studios should have free range to show us what it was like and for us to live vicariously through our characters in the game of what that was like, and to help us not go through that again.
Because I feel like if they're not given the authority to do what they need to, then you yourself are creating the game companies themselves are creating an ignorant generation. Especially if they know that they're going to be young children playing this game. I mean, they deserve to know the truth, even if it's shady.
Yeah.
Because the millions of people who died during, if we keep on the same topic of World War II, their story deserves to be told. And not telling their story in the full scope of what it is, I feel is just a perversion of their sacrifice and what they did to protect freedoms that in America we're lucky enough to have.
Yeah, because another example, I remember this back in 2016 it was, when DICE released Battlefield 1. A lot of people, or a minority of the people, of the community, wanted to know where's their female soldiers? How come they can't play as a female soldier? This is 2017, and I can't play as a female soldier. And to me, it's a World War I game. It's a World War I story. You are going to show and keep it historically accurate. Yes, DICE did later went back in and added a Russian expansion where they did have the Russian battalion where it was female soldiers, which is historically accurate, by the way. Now, Did they fight in the war? My understanding is that they didn't. But DICE kept the game historically accurate of what happened and what transpired in World War One. And so I'm with the game studios should be able to openly express and show, if they're doing a historical game, what happened historically and show the truth of it.
Yes, and I agree with that. And it goes back to my argument. They shouldn't have to do set things in game to appeal to said audience, to make the fans happy. They shouldn't have to fulfill this checklist and stay within this bounds, because stay with the bounds here, fans are happy. They should be able to make the moves they want to make, so things can happen accordingly.
Yeah.
Because if video games spend too much time appeasing their audiences, you lose the idea of what the video game actually was.
Yeah.
Where like imagine Grand Theft Auto, where all you could do is drive a car, and you didn't have guns because guns kill people, and you couldn't.
People kill people.
People do kill people, but the common thought is that guns kill people. That's what I'm trying to say. It's like this common
put a gun on the table
thought.
and let's watch it kill people. It's sorry.
Yeah,
that's just.
I mean, I've shot guns. I'm a huge gun advocate. I do enjoy firearms, and I know that guns themselves don't kill people. People pulling the trigger kill people.
I would say because.
But just using it as like.
Yeah. Sorry.
As like just the thought behind it, and there's no drug references because drugs are bad for you. And there's no alcohol because alcohol's bad for you. And you're just in a loving family because that's what society wants these days. And what is healthy is that there's a mother and father, and there's just the family behind them. Then you don't really have Grand Theft Auto, you have The Sims.
Practically. A thought came to my mind as describing this, but I thought no, we're talking about video games, but let's draw attention towards books. Does books cover some of the stuff that we're talking about, in a sense, but they don't receive the harsh take-back as much as video games? Or am I wrong?
Well,
that's a good question.
Well, okay, so going back to Detroit Become Human, the game director, David Cage, he has come out and stated, how come, the small screen, the big screen, they're able to go and touch and discuss sensitive topics and show that? Why can't video games? Why can't video games be allowed the same liberty to go in and touch on these topics and explore it and allow it? You have games such as, I came across this game from a friend, haven't played it, watched the video that she sent me and Rich and Salt here from a game developed by Ninja Theory called Hellblade, where it goes through and explores a psychological thing that people experience. And they praise the game for going in and allowing the game to express to their family and friends of what they go through and what they have to deal with.
But then you got a game like Detroit Becomes Human where it's not acceptable at all. It doesn't make any sense. They both cover dark topics in different ways. So why is one frowned upon and the other one's like, oh, okay, yeah, this is good? Why? Does it make any sense?
I believe it.
I feel like a lot of people are more touchy about things that are kind of deemed unliked by society because it deals with children. I feel like the children aspect is what makes it the unacceptable part.
And I would agree with you there. It's the fact that it's not so much that abuse is happening, it's the fact that it's a child abuse, and you, as the android, as you as car, you have a decision to make. Do I save this girl, or do I do nothing and listen to Todd? Because in the trailer, leave a link in the description, it shows that if you do nothing and listen to Todd, he will put the girl down, lifeless, on the bed. It says, Daddy loves you, Daddy's no longer angry at you, and she's lifeless. Then the trailer goes back, it's like things could have been different, and it shows all the various trees that you could have taken. You can go and find and get Todd's gun, you could shoot Todd, you could fight Todd, you can have it where the girl tosses the gun to you and you shoot Todd, or the girl shoots Todd. The trailer shows the girl shooting her father. There's a part where you can just literally run away with you, Kara, and the little girl, or you can have it where you and the girl are injured as you walk away. The game allows you to experience and go through and explore, hey, what if this happened? What if this happened? And I'm sure Quantic Dreams is going to handle the game carefully on those topics, because I'm pretty sure Quantic Dreams is aware that this is a sensitive topic. This is something that needs to be handled with care, but needs to be addressed. Because I don't know the statistics of how many people, how many families are in abusive relationships. I have a friend.
Statistic doesn't do much unless we put it into action to change it.
Because I have a friend where she was in a not so good relationship and married. She got divorced and got herself out of that relationship. And I'm sure she decided, and she's not much of a gamer, but I'm sure if she was to play this game, it would be something very sensitive and close to her, because it would bring up things that she doesn't want to remember. But if the game handles it well, it could be very therapeutical to her. And so
it just kind of seems like one that will vary upon people to people with if something is too far or something isn't far enough. Yeah.
Because you look at it, everybody's life is different, but something can happen, it can affect 3 people differently than the other 2 of those 5 people in the room. So, trying to make a game that pleases to everyone, make sure everybody can be...
That's not possible.
It's not going to happen. Something's going to be said that can affect one person, they get offended. So with Quantic Dreams, what they're doing with Detroit Being Human is, let's expand upon the stuff that we have. And see what we can do to make use of the things that we have.
yes, because in Detroit Become Human, in one of their trailers, they have it where it's showing Kara and the girl, I believe her name's Alice, and they're out on the streets, and Kara is going to do everything she can to make her feel like she has a normal life now. And I'm sure that's what some people go through. They have to run away from the abusive relationship. They don't have anywhere to go but the streets. And if anything, it brings awareness. And should video games be allowed to bring awareness to certain social issues and allow us to explore and allow us to do something about it?
Well, video games hold a very large sphere of influence that I don't think a lot of people recognize. And like we've been discussing, they should have the ability to touch whatever subject they need to touch, as long as they tread carefully, because it can help situations a lot. But like I believe it was you who said that actually, so I forgot what you just said, but but that it's just wholly possible to make too much light of a situation. That they need to tread carefully when they're discussing the situations, because there are people who have suffered from these things, and it's not right to try to please everyone. But they should do their best to make it so that people who do and do not want to view that subject don't need to. Such as what they did with Modern Warfare 2. They could put disclaimers in video games like, this level contains information or
Content.
experiences of child abuse, yeah. where if you don't feel comfortable viewing this, you do not need to experience this, and you can continue the game on afterwards.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if Quantic Dreams is going to do that, but Quantic Dreams have made sure to let everyone know you have your 3 characters, and this is what you're going to be doing with each of these characters. So in the way Quantic Dreams do their games, there are interactive drama games. They're interactive cinematic stories, similar to the Telltale games, where you move your character and you do certain actions at certain times. And so everyone is aware now, those who've been following the game, that this game is going to touch a sensitive spot. Now we, as the players, need to be aware of that. And I agree that, okay, okay to express concern about a game, but don't get up in arms and ready to tear down the game before it's released. Wait for it to come out, go to the correct sources to read up on the reviews and what they have to say about the game, or play it yourself to find out. Specifically about Detroit Become Human, along with other games. But if you know that you're not into those type of games, then don't go into it. Don't play it. And on the same note, if you feel like a studio handled the subject too lightly, let them know in a respectful, civilized manner. And let them know, hey, you didn't handle this correctly. I felt that this was a terrible way to handle the situation, and you guys could have done better at it, and here's how. And that's constructive criticism, where you criticize but you give something positive where they can now work on.
I say, because there's always wrong ways of showing a certain thing. There's always right ways. Well, I probably wouldn't necessarily say right ways, but an appropriate way. More to say. And it's not really one of those things you can up and do and expect it to not cause issues. There's, like we were saying, there are certain issues that you can't just up and do and not expect to get some form of negative feedback from it, because it will reflect badly on the creator.
What are your guys' thoughts on everything that we've talked about, from having that line, should parents do the research on the game and be aware of what's in the game before they buy it, and having developers having free range to do what they need to do to develop the game and be able to touch on and show sensitive topics. There's the game Life is Strange, where it does the same thing. It shows and touch on sensitive topics. Just what are your thoughts?
I say parents just need to be mindful about it and understand, okay, this is what this is. I need to make sure that it's not going to have some form of effect on, you know, their child.
Agreed.
In the form of a negative way. I mean, I don't care if kids will sit and play this and things like that, but, you know, they need to understand that it's only a game.
Yeah, and I think kids also need to be held accountable for it too, not only the parents. Because the kids are generally more informed than the parents are when it comes to video games.
Oh,
And
yeah,
if they're
easily.
asking for a game, such as in this case Detroit Becoming Human, and they don't know what it is, then they're walking into it ignorant. And I feel like all parties should know what they're talking about. Parents and children should know
Agreed.
what they're getting into when they get a game.
Yeah, because if a kid asks, like, for a game like that, and the parents ask them, well, what's it about? And if the kid can't answer it, then that's what the parents there should look into it. And then decide
It's
for
a cool name,
themselves
Mom.
if it's worth.
I wonder what it's about.
Because a game of this topic is one that cannot be taken lightly upon the viewers and or players.
Now, if the parents
Yeah, I
have
feel like
Go ahead, Clown.
you go.
No, I was going to ask another question, so go ahead and get your thought in.
Okay, so I was just gonna say that like parents should still, even if their kid describes the game, they should still look into it. Just because, as we know, we were all kids once. We know that it's easier to ask for forgiveness than to tell the truth. A lot of times. So, or it's easier to ask for forgiveness than to ask for permission in a lot of cases. So, and it's more like a fib that they're telling, like, oh, or they're just leaving out part of the game. Like if you said Modern Warfare 2, or in this case, Detroit Becoming Human was you're a detective robot. You gave up being a detective robot. Parents would probably be like, oh, that's cool. But they don't tell what the entire scope of the game is.
What the overall
Theme of the game is, then they're basically lying to get a game that they want. And I feel like the parents should also be held accountable for that, because they should take it upon themselves to figure out what it is their kids are actually doing and what they're viewing on the television, especially when they're at home, where they can kind of help control that. Where if it's something that they don't want their child exposed to, they should set the rules of, hey, I won't get this for you because I don't feel comfortable with you viewing these topics in a place where you can't be like observed through the talking through of this topic, kind of thing. Or in some cases, they're just too young for it.
Yeah. Interesting enough, one of the characters, Connor, he is a detective. He is going down and hunting down deviant or rogue androids. And then another character, Marcus, he is a revolutionist. He's an activist. He is trying to have androids have pretty much human rights.
I mean, if we've all seen iRobots, we know how that happens. We know how that ends, but
this could be different.
It could be different, yeah.
But again, it comes down to how they're going to carefully tie this stuff in, and how is it going to affect the player with how they're going to be showing it. Will it cross a line that society has set on video games? Because you want to step back in time, video games, when it first came out, didn't have ratings.
Yeah, and also, well, I mean, if we're going back to like the original games, you have games like Pac-Man, Miss Pac-Man,
Pong.
Pong.
The first violent
Galactica
was
like
Death Race.
Yeah, there was like no violence, there was no nudity, no drug references in any of these games, where you were just this little 8-bit character moving across the screen, and your objective was to either stop the alien invaders, collect all the little dots on the screen, or something of that. But then as games progressed, as we kind of stated, they got ratings, and developers started to go into more depth of how far can we push this game. And you know, I'm happy that they've done that, because it allows for a much more wide scope of games than just sitting there knocking a ball across the screen with two paddles. Like, we have games such as Detroit Become Human. We have games like Pokemon that allow us to kind of explore different facets of fantasy. That if developers hadn't pushed the is violence allowed in a video game kind of thing, there wouldn't have been anything there. And I do believe that
games like Pac-Man and Pong.
Yeah, and I believe that by addressing these situations, it'll help give people a way to see that the situation not only isn't unique to them, that there are other people out there that can help them through it, that they're not alone in situations that are potentially harmful to them or other people. And I think it's a good way to help people know how to ask for help, and to get the idea that it's okay to ask for help, that you're not weak for getting help. That's what I think.
Well, that's one thing that we've talked about, is you're not weak for getting help. We've talked about that in our cyberbullying video, where if you need help, go get the help. And if the family decides, or the parents decide that it's okay for their kid to have the M-rated game, do you think it's a good idea for the parent or parents to be present in the room as they're playing that game, so they too are there with the kid and they can be asking the kid or the kids questions on how they feel as they're playing this game, or what do they think as they're playing the game?
I know my dad, when I started playing Red Dead Redemption when I was younger, there are some scenes of on-screen full-blown sexual intercourse when you reach a certain point in the story. I remember my dad telling me that once you get to Mexico, which is where these instances happen, I want you to let me know, so that way I can be there with you, especially when you're doing the main storyline quests, because I know what's in there and I want to kind of keep you away from that, but I'm fine with the other facets of the game being played. And I think that's a great instance of a parent being informed into what they're letting their children do and kind of being present to help them not have to experience that because they know what's in there.
Yeah. It's a two-way street on that one.
Because I remember when I got the Xbox, my dad got for my older brother Halo. And
I thought he ended up getting it, bought it instead.
Either way, Halo was there, and I was playing like beginning of the game, where you're on, I think it's autumn fall, when you first wake up as Master Chief. And Dad's there watching as I'm playing, and he's like, how does this game make you feel? And at the time, this is the first time I'm playing an M-rated game. I felt like a little guilty about it, but at the same time, like, this is pretty cool. But also the first time where I've seen blood in a video game. Granted, at the time it looked like spray paint, but it's the first time it was there, and I felt a little uncomfortable. And it's like, well, if you feel uncomfortable, then maybe you shouldn't be playing it. And eventually the game got removed out of the house. Once again, the parent was aware of the rating, or the parent was present in the household. Video games and movies and the computers was open for everyone to see. You may think that's a little extreme, but it also allowed us to know what everyone's playing, and that way you can't hide something. And so you have to be mindful, you have to know what game or what's in the game before you get it. In the instance of Clown, his dad was playing the game all with him or ahead of him, so that way he knew what to expect, what his son was going to get into, what Clown was going to get into as he kept playing.
Yeah, I feel like that's a both your experience and my experience are examples of
Proper
kind of, I guess,
parenting.
like, yeah, proper
In a
parenting
sense.
in that instance, yeah, because the parents are informed as to what their kids are doing, and they're, in the case of your dad, giving you the ability to choose, hey, if this makes you uncomfortable, you probably means you shouldn't be playing it. And my dad, where I know what's going to happen, and I don't want to expose you to that, at least at the age I was, because I couldn't have been more than like 12 or 13 when I was playing it.
Yeah.
Which makes me feel really old now, but it's just not wanting your child to be exposed to that, because it's their world, they're going to be exposed to that eventually. But as a parent, you can keep you still have
Especially at a
control
young
over what you're
age, too, you want to make sure that it's not going to trigger something like, oh, this is all right to do, let's go do it. No, it's not.
Yeah, it's okay to go to Mexico and get a hooker and have sex with her while you're having a bounty hunter go out and kill people. Like, some people might view that because the game did that as, that's a thing that's acceptable. When in all actuality, That's probably not acceptable in most countries around the world.
Yeah.
But I do believe that companies should be free to do what they want. It's not
Agreed.
it's not their fault if someone decides to go and reenact what they see in a game. They
Don't
can't really be
penalize.
held accountable for
Don't
that.
penalize one form of it and not, criticize or punish the other for it.
Yeah,
Don't allow movies and things like that to get away with it, but then, bash down on games for doing it.
yeah. They're holding a huge double standard in that case, and it's just not cool to have a double standard like that.
It's really not. Because, I don't know, this big controversy with Grand Theft Auto when it came out, and then stuff happened at another quick with the story. This person then went and did something at a place, and it got a huge backlash because of it. Because of what he did in real life, what he learned in the game.
It goes back to what Clown said. It's if you're playing it like what you would do in the real life, well, that's your purgatory. And that's what the kid did. He ran something and he created a scenario and he put himself in that scenario and then he made that scenario happen in the real world.
And it's not the fault of it's not Rockstar's fault that someone did that.
No.
They didn't tell the kid to do that. They didn't put him in that scenario.
Technically, no games do.
Yeah. And what I do like about Rockstar is that they show that the people that they would consider like the cool people have a lot of problems. Like in the course of Grand Theft Auto 5, take Michael for instance. Michael has an extremely rocky marriage. His kids are both terrible, terrible people. And he's considered BA because he was a bank robber who had to fake his own death to get out of a situation with one of his people after he turned state's witness. His life is absolutely, absolutely terrible. He has all these things that he can't get away from. His kids think he's an idiot and just stupid, and they're trying to be what they believe society deems to be cool. And the game's kind of showing, hey, this is stupid to try to do this. You're not going to be in a good situation no matter no matter what you choose after you've walked on this path. And that's what I like is that they show the consequences to what happens. And so they're showing you if you decide to do this, this is what will happen to you. And you know what?
This is a possible outcome.
Yeah, this is a possible outcome. And it's a way to deter people from doing it. Because we all know that in Grand Theft Auto you can become incredibly wealthy, which, as a bank robber, I mean, you probably could become incredibly wealthy, but when you get caught, you lose. And unlike in a video game, you don't wake up at a hospital after you get blown up. Doesn't happen.
No.
At least not to my knowledge.
If there's ever some knowledge like that, why is this not a thing?
Yeah. Like, if I knew I could go skydiving without a parachute and just wake up in the hospital with $100 worth of damage, then...
Or more.
Or more, yeah.
Life.
$100, $150 worth of damage, then I'd go skydiving without a parachute. I think that'd be awesome.
Who wouldn't?
But, yeah. But there are consequences to the actions, and that's, I think, Rockstar does a good job of displaying the consequences.
Well, thank you everyone for your input and your thoughts. And this is all our opinions on the matter and what we think. Feel free to leave in the comments your thoughts, your opinions, whether or not there is a line or whether you agree with it, and leave it in the comment below. And feel free to hit the subscribe button if you want to hear more about what we have to say or find other silly stuff that we're have in the works. We got some things with that we are planning on doing here with Dead Clown, which we have planned which we'll find it hopefully you guys will find it entertaining. And hopefully we'll have Valentine back within the next couple weeks. She's out because she got married this past Saturday and is on her honeymoon right now in Colorado and is having a fantastic time and enjoying herself.
Which we all can use a break every now and then.
Agreed.
Amen, sister.
And so this is Hero Darkness.
Soul Logic.
Which numbers?
Dead clowns.
This has been a
And as always, guys. Oh,
this
got
is a
low
Salty
guys
Chillers
again.
Entertainment production.
And as always,
As
guys,
always,
stay salty.
stay salty.